In the cold dawn of April 1967, Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov walked towards a launch pad, knowing he was likely walking to his death. Engineers had flagged over 200 technical flaws, from faulty parachutes to unstable guidance systems. But political pressure was immense. The Soviet leadership demanded a space triumph for Lenin's birthday in the upcoming May Day parade. Komarov faced an impossible choice. If he refused the mission, his close friend and backup pilot, the legendary Yuri Gagarin, would take his place. To save the first man in space, Komarov had to sacrifice himself. He climbed into the flawed capsule. At 3:35 a.m., Soyuz 1 blasted off. The problems started immediately. One of its 2 solar panels failed to deploy, slashing its power in half. The spacecraft began to tumble. On Tigrun, Gagarin sounded increasingly desperate, trying to guide his friend. Komarov fought for hours, manually trying to stabilize the craft, burning through precious fuel. After 13 agonizing orbits, Mission Control ordered an emergency re-entry. Komarov, a pilot of incredible skill, managed to orient the capsule correctly for its descent through the atmosphere. The heat shield held. It seemed he might just make it. But then, at 23,000 feet, the main parachute failed. It was tangled in its container, a known defect that was never fixed. The backup chute deployed, but immediately got tangled with the useless main chute. Ground stations picked up his final, enraged transmissions, cursing the engineers who had sent him up in a broken machine. Moments later, Soyuz 1 slammed into the earth near Orenburg, the capsule flattened by the impact. Komarov was killed instantly. His sacrifice was not in vain. It forced a complete redesign of the Soyuz spacecraft, making it one of the most reliable vehicles in history. But the lessons of space travel are often written in tragedy. 4 years later, in June 1971, the crew of Soyuz 11 Georgy Dobrovolsky, Vladislav Volkov, and Viktor Patsiev were making history. They had just spent 3 weeks aboard Soyuz 1, the world's very first space station, proving humans could live and work in orbit. Their mission was a resounding success. As they began their journey home, everything seemed perfect. The re-entry module separated, the retrorockets fired, and they were on their way. But during the descent, a tiny pressure equalization valve, no bigger than a coin, malfunctioned. It was supposed to open at a low altitude to equalize cabin pressure, but it opened far too early. In the vacuum of space, the cabin's air vented out in less than a minute. The crew had no pressure suits. In the silent vacuum, they suffocated before they even knew what was happening. When the recovery team opened the hatch, they found the 3 cosmonauts sitting peacefully in their seats, with dark blue patches on their faces and blood trickling from their ears and noses. The tragedy led to another critical safety upgrade. From that day forward, all cosmonauts and astronauts were required to wear pressure suits during launch and landing. Across the Atlantic, America's space program was also facing its own demons. On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger stood ready on the launch pad. The nation was buzzing with excitement, largely because of Krista McAuliffe, a schoolteacher chosen to be the first civilian in space. But behind the scenes, a frantic debate was unfolding. The weather in Florida was unusually cold, and engineers warned that the O-ring seals on the solid rocket boosters could become brittle and fail in the freezing temperatures. They pleaded to postpone the launch, but NASA management, under pressure to maintain a busy flight schedule, overruled them. At 11:38 a.m., Challenger lifted off. For the first minute, the launch looked flawless. Then, 59 seconds in, a puff of black smoke appeared near the right booster. The O-rings had failed. A jet of superheated gas burned through the external fuel tank like a blowtorch. 73 seconds after liftoff, as millions watched on live TV, Challenger was engulfed in a massive fireball and broke apart. The crew cabin was thrown clear of the explosion but plummeted for nearly 3 minutes before hitting the ocean at over 200 miles per hour. All 7 crew members, including McAuliffe, were lost. The disaster grounded the shuttle fleet for years and led to a total overhaul of NASA's management structure and safety culture. Yet, tragically, history would repeat itself. On January 16, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia launched for a 16-day science mission. During liftoff, A piece of insulating foam from the external tank broke off and struck the shuttle's left wing. Foam strikes had happened on previous missions and were considered a maintenance issue, not a critical safety threat. For 16 days, the 7 astronauts aboard Columbia conducted their experiments, completely unaware of the mortal danger they were in. The foam had punched a hole in the wing as a heat shield. On February 1st, as Columbia re-entered the atmosphere, superheated gas began to pour into the breach, melting the wing's internal structure from the inside out. Over Texas, ground observers saw the shuttle begin to shed debris. Mission Control's last contact was a clipped response from the commander just as the master alarm went off. Moments later, Columbia disintegrated in the sky, scattering debris across 2 states. Once again, all 7 astronauts were lost. The investigation revealed that NASA's culture had allowed engineering concerns to be dismissed yet again. Even in the pioneering days of experimental flight, the line between Earth and space was a dangerous one to cross. In 1967, U.S. Air Force pilot Michael Adams climbed into the a rocket-powered plane designed to fly at the very edge of space. His mission was to reach an altitude of 250,000 feet. The ascent was smooth, but as he reached the peak of his flight, the thin atmosphere caused the aircraft to veer uncontrollably. He entered a hypersonic spin, tumbling at thousands of miles per hour. Ground controllers tried to help, but communication was spotty. As the X-15 plunged back into the thicker lower atmosphere, the extreme aerodynamic forces ripped it apart. Adams died strapped to his seat, posthumously awarded astronaut wings as his flight had crossed the official boundary of space. From Komarov to Columbia, these stories are not just tales of technical failure. They are human stories of courage, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of a dream. These pioneers knew the risks, yet they flew anyway, pushing the boundaries for all of us. Their losses were devastating, but their legacy lives on in the safer spacecraft and more vigilant procedures that protect today's astronauts. They paid the ultimate price, reminding us that the path to the stars is paved with both triumph and tragedy. Thanks for watching. If you found this story meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more chapters from history.